Okay, hello, I hope everyone can hear me. My name's Helen and I'm a committee member with London Archaeologist. I'm just going to welcome you all to the session. And yeah, I've just seen a notice in the chat to say if there's any sound yet, so hopefully you can all hear me. Yeah, I want to welcome you all today to our annual lecture with Adam Corsini from Layers of London, and many thanks to Adam for helping to organise this evening. It was due to be our AGM today. Obviously with the current COVID-19 crisis, that's had to be postponed under advisement of the Charity Commission. We will elect our committee officers and members next year in May 2021, and we will be putting our annual report and accounts up on our website very soon if anyone does want to have a look at that. We'd like to thank everyone who's come this evening. We've had an overwhelming response to this, which for our first virtual event, which is really pleasing for all of us on the committee, and we're very excited to hear Adam talking about the Layers of London project. So what I'll do is I will hand over now to Adam, if he would like to introduce himself and what he's going to be talking about today.
Okay. Hi everybody, my name's Adam Corsini, as Helen just said, and I am the Public Engagement Officer for Layers of London project. Tonight I'm very pleased to show you the Layers of London site if you've never seen it before. I'll divide my talk into three stages, I guess, and I'll start by doing a general introduction to the Layers of London project, what it's about, the functionalities of it and the kind of content that exists on there, and then I'll move on to talking in a bit more detail about the projects we've run with the London Archaeologist and the work that a team of volunteers have been doing to upload some of the articles that feature in the back issues that are available online already and now are available via Layers of London as well. And then I'll move on to a general discussion of the archaeological information that sits on Layers of London, how it can be a useful resource for whichever purpose you desire, really. So without further ado, I will stop sharing this screen and start to share the Layers of London screen. I think it's this one. And here we go. So now hopefully everybody can see the Layers of London home screen. Before I start talking about Layers of London, just a few features. If you haven't used Zoom before, you should find that somewhere on your screen, if you're using a desktop, it's probably at the bottom. If you're using a tablet, it's probably at the top. But there is a little box where you can click on the chat. So if you do want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a comment or some kind of message throughout the course of this presentation. Equally, if you have any questions, there's a question answer space where you can click and leave a question there as well. I'll leave answering the questions to the end of the talk, but do feel free to write anything as we go along. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm not getting any complaints at the moment, so that's all good. And the other thing I would say, if you do want to leave a suggestion as to a space that we can explore tonight, an address on the map, feel free to put that into the chat as well. And during the course of the talk, I'll try and zoom into a specific area and do a little bit of exploring of that area as well. So just to help with the bandwidth, I'm going to stop my video, but hopefully everybody can still see the screen and hear my voice. And I'll start by explaining a little bit about the background to Layers of London. This is a project that was funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and it really came together because there was this desire to unite these collections, these historic map collections, under one resource. It's well known that there are many fantastic maps that track the history of London, and they sit within collections in major institutions such as Historic England, the National Archives, the British Library, London Metropolitan Archive. And we really wanted to partner with all these organisations to create what is now Layers of London. But we didn't just want to play with the big players and these large institutions. We also wanted to ensure that local administrative archives and smaller organisations could also join in and participate and send us their maps to feature on the site. And to date, we have over 250 different layers that can be explored on the Layers of London resource. It isn't just that, it's also a project and a website for anybody, whether you're a Londoner, whether you're beyond London, anybody can add a record that relates to the history or a memory of London. And in that respect, it's a crowdsourced website where anybody can add content to it and share it under the Creative Commons license that we have. It's completely free to use. The website is layersoflondon.org. You don't need an account to explore, but if you do want to add content, then you do need to create an account. And I'll explain a bit more about that as we go through. But without further ado, when you reach layersoflondon.org, this is the homepage. And you can see that at the top, it starts with a few different example layers and maps that we've acquired or we've gathered together. If I scroll down, there's a section that involves or tells you how you can add your own story, whether it's a photograph from your photo album, whether it's a piece of information you have about a particular building in your area. You can add anything onto the website. There's also a few features that we've been running, which have been crowdsourced projects to create new maps or new layers within historic maps, and I'll talk about those in a short while as well. As expected, there's a search facility, and you can search by place or a topic, or indeed one of the many tags that we've allocated to our different records. And we also have some highlight collections down at the very bottom of the page here, giving you an example of some of the different organisations we've worked with to add content onto the Layers of London website. But I'll scroll back up to the top because I'm sure you're all eager to see what the maps look like and how it all operates. So if I click on the word map, we get to our getting started page. And this really summarises those two aspects, the map interface of the site and also the records and collection side of the site. What I like to do is start with the maps and how to upload different layers and show you a bit about that. And what I find useful is when you get to this page, if you click on the little triangle in the semicircle here, it just shuts down and hides what we call the tray with the records and makes the map a little bit larger and a bit nicer to view. You can still see all these pins that are coming up here, and these pins are the records that people uploaded. So if I just open that up again, if we hover over, let's see if we hover over one of these, it's not going to work now. When you hover over one of these, it usually tells you which pin it's relating to, but I'll come on to that later. So when you're looking at the base map, there's a function called Layer Tools on the bottom left-hand side. And if we open that up, it gives you the option to hide records, hide those pins, or view them again. I'm going to hide those records, and I'm going to go straight into choosing a layer for us to look at. And to do that, you can click on Choose New Layers here, or you can go to the navigation panel on the left-hand side and click Layers up here. And here you'll see the Layers directory, which we've split into three categories: London Maps, Borough Maps, and Datasets. In the London Map section, you start to get an idea of some of the different layers that we have now brought together here. We have medieval London as one of the earliest maps looking features that we have, Tudor London, the Argus map, so on and so forth. There's some really fantastic layers that we have, including the Rokes 10-mile round. If I show more down here, we have the Booth Poverty map, which is one of our most popular ones. OS maps have fantastic detail from the 1940s here and late 19th century, and the bomb damage map and the RAF aerial photography, which are some fantastic examples of how these resources can really resonate with the built environment today. So I'll start by just scrolling up to the top, because if you want to view a particular map, you simply click on the box. You can either click in the plus on the right, top right, or simply click anywhere in there. and it brings up a summary of what that map is all about, when it dates to, and who provided us with this layer. So in this case, it's the London Metropolitan Archives. If you read it and you're happy with that and you want to use it, you simply click use this layer like so, and you'll notice that there's now a green border around that box and a little tick in the top corner. So I'll click I'm done, and we can see that the Argus map is now on our base map. So using your mouse, you can scroll in and zoom in. On the right hand side, bottom right, you can see there's a plus and a minus to zoom in and out as well. I'm going to start to scroll in like so. And the great thing about Layers of London is that these maps have been digitized to a very high spec and high resolution, which if I move over to somewhere like the Tower of London, allows you to really zoom in to the extent you can see the cannons on the edge of the waterfront. You can see the man with his animals crossing the river here. We can see people outside the city walls, and you can really just move your mouse around and navigate as freely as you want. If you want to search for a particular spot, and the one I always go for is St. Paul's. We can click on that space in the Find Your Place at top, and then it zooms out a little bit and places a red dot in the spot you're looking for. So as I zoom in now, you can see what St. Paul's looks like. I'm just going to make sure this is, let me just make that a little bit bigger. There we go. So we can see what St. Paul's looked like before the Great Fire of London. And what we try to do with all our layers is geo-reference the original maps onto the OpenStreetMap today, which means that if we go to our layer tools down here, if I hover my mouse over this bar, you can see the arrow turns into a hand, and it allows me to either click on this eye icon, which will completely turn the map off, like so. And now you can see that St. Paul's sits beneath St. Paul's on the Argus map. And then if I wanted to, I can go to this bar, I can turn it on again, and I can start to fade this map in and out like so. So this is a really useful feature if you've got several maps uploaded at one time. And you can see how, although not perfect, it's pretty well geo-referenced as we start to navigate round. You can see Cheapside here, and we'll move up Munger Lane up to Moorgate, and we can have a look at Moorfields, where the people are doing hunting animals, practicing archery, perhaps even doing their laundry outside the city walls here. Could be a bit of tanning going on. And I hope you'll agree that the detail is really clear to see and quite easy to navigate around, especially with that georeferencing element to it, like so. Okay, so that's one thing, but you can upload several layers at one time. And if we go to choose new layers here, if I go to our London maps, I'll now upload the rope map from 1746. This is one of my favorites, showing you London in the 18th century. And it goes all the way from, well, 10 miles around, surprise, surprise. So it takes in a lot of Greater London as well, which is a fantastic thing to be able to view. Let's open up the Booth poverty map from late Victorian period. I'll use this layer. I'll scroll down and show the bomb damage map as well. So if I click I'm done and start to zoom out, you can see all those layers are placed on top of each other now. And I'll zoom out slowly, so you can see how this looks and works. And very much like images in a PowerPoint presentation, you can move one layer to the top or send it to the back by going to the layer tools on the left hand side, holding and clicking and holding that layer that you desire to move to the top. So I'll do that for the Agus map here, and then moving that to the top of your map directory. And as we'll see, the Agus map now appears at the top here. So I'll do that one more time, and I'll do that with the rope map now. I'll move that to the top. And this is a good example of the georeferencing process. So our maps have been georeferenced by Museum of London Archaeology and digitised by London Metropolitan Archives. And the process of doing that, of finding those same spots, means there's a slight bit of distortion on some of the original maps, as you can see from the rope map. But it does mean that if we go into somewhere like Crouch End up here, or Muswell Hill, if we fade that map out again, it is pretty well, let me just turn these off, it's pretty closely georeferenced to today's areas. So I'll just fade that in out again, like so. Now, one of the really useful aspects of being able to overlay several layers in one go is the ability to fade those maps in and out in one particular place to see how features have changed over time. So if we were to fade out the road map, we can now see St. Paul's on the Agus map, the area around St. Paul's and how it was bombed during the war. And if I move over to Westminster area, just wait for the booth map to upload a little bit. There we go. We can take a look at how the West End and west of the city is fairly, well, very rich and full of these lovely yellow gold buildings with a bit of poverty here and there. But as we move over to the East London areas, we can see there's much more poverty and criminality and that kind of thing in East London. So those are the basic functions of layers of London. You can turn maps on and off entirely, like so. You can fade them in and out, like so. You can overlay them, you can move them around and move them up and down to the front, however you wish. There's also a little cross in the layer tools, which means you can turn or take that map completely off the screen, like so. And then that removes it from your layer directory. Trying to make this a little bit interactive. If anyone wants me to explore a particular area, feel free to put a place in that chat box, and we can have a little explore and have a look at some of the maps in that area. But whilst we're doing that, I will just go back to, let's go back to the home screen for a minute and just show you how to get back into it quickly, because I went to map the first time round, but if I go to get started, that will bring you straight to the layer directory without having to click on choose new layers or something. So we have a few suggestions in the chat, so let's go to, who was the first one? We had, let's go to the Barbican. So if I close this for a moment, and if I type in, oops, if I can spell correctly, Barbican, you can see we zoom in here, and let's have a look at, let's go for a layer that we haven't looked at yet. So maybe let's look at the Hoard map, might be a good one. Choose this layer, and oops, let's go to, oh no, where's my, let's go to London Maps. I tell you what I'll do, I'll show the RAF aerial collection one, because this is a really fascinating project that we've recently been working on. So I'll just turn that off for a moment. So here we can see how the area around Charthouse looked on the Horwood map from the late 18th century, 1799. This is a really beautiful map because it's got some nice depictions of the house numbers at the time and the street layout and what have you. So feel free to explore these after this talk tonight and have a real nice play around with the different map and layers. But I'm just going to turn that one off for a moment because this project here, or this layer, has taken images that were taken by the RAF after World War II of the area, of the whole of Greater London actually, and there were 24,000 images that originally were taken, and we reduced that down to 8,000, and using members of the public to engage in the georeferencing process, we managed to georeference those and stitch them all together to effectively make a Google Earth of 1945 to 49. So if I just start zooming out, you can see how that started to piece together. The further out you zoom, the further, or the easier you can see how this is a series of images that have been stuck together like so. So we zoom back into the Barbican area and we can start to see some of the bomb damage that happened and the effects of that if we zoom in far. So if we were to upload this layer with the bomb damage map, you start to see how the two different layers can work hand in hand. So I'm just going to check the chat once more and have a look at some other places people have put in. We had a request for Kingston, so let's just type Kingston up here. And the RAF layer will feature. The RAF layer covers the whole of Greater London, so let's just wait for that to upload. And what one can do, if I click into London Maps and open up a modern satellite map like so, we can start to compare how the areas have or haven't changed that much over the past half a century or so. So let me just check. I'll go to a couple more places that people have asked for. Someone has asked for East Barnet, so let's go to East Barnet. If that comes up in my search, typically it hasn't come up in my search. So let's just go to Chipping Barnet. And what you can see overlaid here are the boundaries or the borders of the individual images. So if you were interested in accessing one of the original photographs from Historic England's archive, you should now be able to click on that and it gives you the image reference for what you're looking at. So here is the area of Chipping Barnet up top. And we'll go to one more place. I think Walthamstow was requested. So we'll go over there as well. And let me just pop this one up again, like so. All the borders have come on now for some reason. So I'll just take off those borders of the images, but we can have a nice explore and feel free later to search for your own house and see how it's changed from 1945 to now. So hopefully that's given you an idea of what you can do with Layers of London and the different features or the different layers that we have. I'll quickly go through that directory again. So we have Medieval London, Tudor map, Argus map. Some of the 17th century and 18th maps cover the City of London, a little bit of Westminster, sometimes a little bit of Southwark. When you start getting into the 18th century, we have Rokes map, we have the Booth map. The Goad maps are really detailed and quite fantastic to look at. Likewise, the Inland Revenue maps and the OS maps cover pretty much the whole of Greater London as well. But tonight, what I really wanted to do was move on to the project we've been working on with London Archaeologist. So if I go into map again here, in our tray on the left-hand side are some highlighted collections and some of the more popular collections. And as I mentioned earlier, when you hover over a particular individual record, you'll see that the pin on the right-hand side, the black pin here, will turn red to indicate where that record is on the map. And as I scroll down on the tray like so, you'll see there's a collection called London Archaeology, London Archaeologist articles. If I click on that, in the tray, we have now uploaded 414 records. Each record relates to an individual article for a back issue of the London Archaeologist magazine. So if I close that tray now, you can see how they are scattered all around Greater London. And as we zoom into the city, unsurprisingly, because the extent of archaeological work in the city, there are numerous pins relating to issues from the London Archaeologist magazine. So let's pick a spot. Let's go to somewhere around the forum area. And if I click on this one here, when you view a particular record, it usually comes off a little picture. But if I click in here, you can see that what we have been working on with volunteers, and there's been a team of volunteers who have been allocated different volumes of the London Archaeologist magazine, and they've been methodically going through each of the issues, reading all the articles, and then mapping as best as they can a link to where that article can be viewed on the ADS Archaeological Data Service. So what you see in terms of the records on Layers of London is a summary of when the excavation took place, or when the article relates to, the title, as was in the original article, usually the opening introduction or a summary of what that article is about, the author of that article and the volume that it appears in, and then a link to the actual article on the Archaeology Data Service. It's important to say that these records on Layers of London are very much like the covers of a book. They're acting as the signpost where you can read the full articles rather than being the full article itself. So it's very much a signpost or something that's directing you to further content. And that's true of all the records on Layers of London. Layers of London is a website that is centered on sharing information. Content is shared under Creative Commons, and likewise the Commons Access Agreement on ADS is a really helpful thing that's allowed us to locate these and have these records work in that sense of that it is directing you to where the full articles can be viewed. So here's one about the Roman Basilica, and if I just close that, we can see that around it we have this article from the very first volume and some of the first work that took place in the forum area. And then we have various other articles from different volumes and issues of the London Archaeologist magazine. What I've done at the moment, if I open up my tray, is we're looking at the London Archaeologist collection here. So all those articles that have been mapped onto Layers of London have been gathered together to form a collection. So if you wanted to just view the archaeological material on Layers of London, my recommendation is to click on this collection and have that uploaded. If I go back to the Getting Started page, and if we then go to the area around Leadenhall, like so, as we zoom in, it should, see, it's not going to do it for me now. But as we zoom in, it should bring up all the different pins that are in that area. I don't know why it's not doing that. Let me just go to the home page and go to map again. And if we zoom into, let's do this way. So if we zoom into the City of London and it goes to Leadenhall, here we go. So if you wanted to find out what other information that people outside of the London Archaeologist project have been putting up, you can now see other records that people have uploaded. So this one here by this person about the Cornhill Devils, a piece of information here, like so, a couple of images as well. So literally anybody could upload any information to Layers of London. It really is whatever interest you have and whatever you feel like uploading, I guess. But let's just go back to, oops, bring up the tray. And that getting started. And if we upload that London Archaeologist series of articles, like so, I'll just zoom out again so we can see where they're all sat. So now we're just looking at those London Archaeologist articles. The interesting thing we can start to do now is upload some layers alongside these articles to make the website, or really enrich the kind of data and information that we want to get out of this. So if I go to the layer tools and click those choose new layers, this time rather going to the London maps, I'm going to go to the data sets over here. And when I click on that, we have a few layers that relate to archaeology. One is the archaeology of Greater London provided by Mola, and I'll come on to that one shortly. But as we scroll down, we have this layer, London's Archaeological Investigations, 1972 to 2017. So this is a second thing that we've been working on with the London Archaeologist magazine. And as I'm sure you're all aware, each year, the London Archaeologist publish summaries of the investigations that have taken place during the previous year. And what we've been able to do is georeference and allocate those summaries. And we've split them into investigations from 1992 to 2017, and then the excavations from 1972 to 91 for Greater London and the City of London. So if I use this layer now, click I'm done, I'll show you how they feature on the map. It looks a little bit like a plague where all these red dots suddenly appear. But if we were to go into something like, let's go to, where are we going? Where am I? Let's go to Cheapside. Let's go to the Guildhall. Here we go. So we can see how there might be a record about the archaeology at the Guildhall and the discovery of the amphitheatre here. So this is one of the articles. Let's just open that up for a second. An article from volume 6.9 by Nick Bateman. But if I wanted to find out the summary, I could click on this triangle, and let me just hide the record for a minute. If I click on that triangle, here we go. So here is, oh, that's not a particularly good one to show you, but if I click on this one, we have the evaluation by Molas in 2007, and it tells you a brief bit as has been published in the London Archaeology Summaries. Let's just click on, let's see what this one is. Here we go. So the watching brief in 2017, that's on here. And in fact, as we move around, we've probably got, oops, on poultry, that huge site. You can see there's a really large summary to read about the really important excavations in 1994. If I go to my layer tools, I can turn on the City of London investigations, and we have those earlier investigations in 72 to 91. They're depicted as purple triangles, like so. So we also have those summaries. And likewise, if I turn on the Greater London excavations and zoom out, you can start to see those summaries all across London from the early periods and right up to 2017. So I hope that people will find this a useful resource to find out a bit of information about the archaeology in your area, the excavations that have been conducted by the various organisations over the past 50 plus years. And it doesn't end there, because if I leave those open and go to choose new layers, we have further data sets which have even more archaeology on. So this is one provided by Mola. So if I open this up and click this, use this layer, I'm done. We have a beautiful fluorescent coloured London that we're looking at here. So over on the left hand side in the layer tools, you can see that what's being shown here are all the different types of geology of London. So boulder clay, brick, earth, chalk. I'll turn them off one by one, and all those colours will slowly disappear, like so. But then say you want to focus on the Roman archaeology of London, you can click on the Roman infrastructure, and we have not only the buildings depicted in the City of London, but the road networks as well. And then if we click on Roman, I'm just going to turn off the London Archaeologist summaries for the moment, because there are these red squares that appear. And if I click on a red square by the Guildhall Yard, it should say a little bit, well, it tells you a little bit about the barrack block on 37 Wood Street. And over here, we have information about the amphitheatre. So a huge amount of data. And the great thing about this Archaeology of Greater London layer that's been provided by Mola is that we now have information going right back to prehistory, with early and later Paleolithic find spots also depicted on the map as we click out. So something like this one up here. There's a flint artefact from Grazing Road, and that, hopefully, if I pop in the investigations, I'm not sure if this one will connect, but it may be part of, no, it's not that one. But for other find spots, undoubtedly they will connect to investigations, and information can be linked up in that respect. So one further bit of information regarding archaeology, and this time I'm going to hope that my Wi-Fi can cope, but I'm going to be brave, and I'll click on data sets one further time, because in addition to the Mola layer and the London Archaeologist summaries, we also have Historic England's historic environment records. So if I click use this layer as well, I'm done. There's going to be a lot of information that's suddenly going to get uploaded here. We have that beautiful colours of the Mola layer. We have the road networks, everything's shown at the moment. We have the summaries. Will my Wi-Fi crash? I'm just going to turn off a few things. I'll turn off the investigations, hang on. And I might turn off the archaeology of Mola, just to show you the historic environment records. So here we have records divided into activities and assets, and we can turn on areas, we can turn on linear features, we can turn on points. I'll do so for all of these, like so. And you can see there's a huge amount of information, and then just pick in, let me go back to the chat to see if someone has got an area you want to explore. So now let's go to, let's go for Bermondsey Square. And we'll have a look at some of those assets around there. So if I hover my cursor over one of those buildings like so, it should hopefully tell you a bit about what that polygon relates to. So this is the churchyard of St. Mary Magdalene in Bermondsey. Let's go for this point here in the activities, see what that brings up. So an evaluation by pre-construct archaeology in this instance. But hopefully people can get a sense and an idea of how you can use each of these layers in their own individual right, but also combine those layers to best effect. So if you're working in archaeology and want to put together a desk-based assessment or something along those lines, I'm hoping that you'll find this a useful resource, not only in terms of having a look at the HER records, but the summaries and the original maps as well, because there's nothing stopping you from having a layer like historic environment records up with something like, let's go for one of these London maps with the Roke map. And just in the same way that you can move maps up and down, you can have your points on top of your base map like so. So you can use the two in conjunction with each other and really get the most out of our Layers of London site. So that, I'm hoping, gives you an idea of the different aspects of Layers of London, the different layers that we have, the archaeological layers in particular, the records that relate to the London Archaeologist articles that we've been working on with our team of volunteers. And I'll just quickly show you some other data sets and layers that we have. There are some, I'm just going to clear all these for a moment, because it isn't just archaeology or historical things as such. I'm trying to find the right terms here. We have transport networks, which brings up a fantastic layer of the London Underground at a street level, like so, which is one of my favorites to explore and play around with. We have in our data sets this environment layer, which shows you underground rivers and different trees in different boroughs, which is absolutely fantastic. We also have a whole range of things, from furniture makers to picture sales, London's worst disasters, a layer which has located references or places in London that have been referenced in Dickens novels. I'm going to try and find one more. Hang on a minute. Let's go to my London maps. What would this one be? In fact, I'm going to search for this one. Oh, no. Find all and see if it's in here. No, I can't find it. But there is a layer that was created as an art project in Camberwell, and an artist worked with residents in that area to create basically a map of how people would want to depict their area, from chicken shops to Barry's house to Peckham White Station, that kind of stuff. And it's a really fantastic layer. Let me just try and, where would it be? I think it might be in Southwark. Let's see if it comes up here. No, I can't find it at the moment. Never mind. But you can also see how there's local maps depict for particular areas as well. So lots to explore, and I hope you all have fun exploring after this lecture now. What I might do is just check the chat for any questions or comments, but if anyone does have any questions, feel free to ask away, and you can leave a question in the question and answers now. So so we had a question relating to what's in the borough maps. So let me just show you that now then. So if I go back to the borough maps, not every borough has provided us with a particular set of maps from their archives. However, most are starting to do so now. So if I click on somewhere like Hounslow, we can go and see, when you click on a borough, it shows you every layer that features in that borough, but then some of those have individual maps like so. So if I click on that Hounslow map, we have the Moses Glover map from 1636. If I use that, the only annoying thing, I guess, about the website is that you can't rotate the screen at the moment. So the problem with the Moses Glover map was that it wasn't drawn facing north. So as we zoom into this really fantastic 17th century map, we'll have to look it upside down. So you either have to spin your head around or spin your screen around to view it properly. But that's one of the older maps that we have on the site. And again, you can navigate, and it's been fairly well geo-referenced. Let's just close that one for a moment and go to choose new layers. And let's have a look at somewhere like Richmond. So in Richmond maps, we have quite a lot of these enclosure maps. And as we have a look around, you can see how they're all placed on top of each other like so. And once again, we can turn them on and off, and you can have a real play around and enjoy looking at the different things in your local area. Someone's asked a question. I was wondering if you used a bespoke code for building the web map interface, or whether it's built on a GIS like the Ezra Story Maps. We have a web developer that has developed the website, and the code is also shared under Creative Commons license. It is mainly based on GIS. I won't lie, I'm not a GIS officer or person, so I don't know to the full extent how it all operates on that level. But if I go over to this corner here, you should be able to see that a company called Era made the website. And if there are any questions, feel free to contact them. Quite a lot of the GIS work was undertaken by Museum of London Archaeology as one of the partnerships, and they have geo-referenced quite a few of the original maps that have gone up here. But we also do have a GIS officer that has mapped these as well. What I was going to say about the GIS for the RAF layer, the RAF aerial photography, we use georeferencer.com to work on a crowdsource way to do that. And I might just briefly show the booth map project that we've been working on. So here, if I open up this, so this project is all about asking members of the public to help us create separate layers for each of those poverty and wealth divisions. And to do so, you simply click on a square. I'm not signed in, but you click on a square, and it allows you to trace around a particular building and color code those in. So effectively and ultimately at the end of the project, we will have 7 separate vector layers, one for each of the wealth divisions, which can then be turned on and off, and will mean that we can explore London in the Victorian period a lot easier and increase the potential for research in that respect. Okay, are we still accepting new data sets? We are. Our project funding is currently until the end of September. There is not a backlog, but there are some maps and data sets that are still waiting to be uploaded, but we will be able to finish those. And if anyone has anything that they would like to see on Layers of London, feel free to contact us, and we can try our best to upload those. So there's still a little bit of time to send anything through. A common question we get is about copyright, and someone's asked this question. So how does copyright work on this? So everything on Layers of London is shared under a Creative Commons license. So any record that goes up must be credited to the original source of where that information came from, and that information must also be shared under some kind of commons access agreement. So for instance, if we take the articles that we've been uploading with London Archaeologist, those on the ADS, the Archaeological Data Service, are have a commons access license agreement, and because we're not uploading the original articles, we're simply providing a link to where you can find those original articles. That's one way that the copyright would work in this instance. But it's really important for anybody who does upload a record, particularly if there's an image, that if that image isn't already shared under some kind of Creative Commons or you have permission to do so, you must seek permission from the original copyright holder to upload any information. A question about combining text from various sources into a single document, or is it copy and paste several times? So let me just, I'm not sure what you mean by that one. If you mean combining text from several websites, you can do that, yes. What you can't do is combine information. If there's two records, for instance, and you want to amalgamate those two records on the website into one, that wouldn't be possible. But what you can do is add those two records into one collection, and anybody can create a new collection by signing up for an account, and it's completely free to do so. And then once signed in, you can create a collection here, or you can add your own records. And also, if I click on a random record like this one up here, if I open that up, there's a box that says add to collection, and you can choose to have public collections or private collections. So that's one way to gather together information for your own purposes and build your own collections. Question about the RAF photos. Are all the RAF photos matched? Yes, they all have been geo-referenced now. So unfortunately, if I go back to the home screen, this Become a Map Maker doesn't actually bring up any images to do anymore. Oh, they do. Oh, no, a couple have gone back. The reason that a couple have gone back then is because those have been reviewed, only in the review process they hadn't originally been done very well. So the vast majority are now being reviewed, but most are up to on the RAF layer. So have been stitched together to form that huge mosaic, and you should be able to view those. A question about how the project was funded. So it's funded by the primarily by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and it was funded for 3 years. The first year was preparation work, and it's been a live active website for just under 2 years now. So we've worked with many organisations, from large ones to small ones, to develop not only the layers and the maps, but also the content. And there's some fantastic collections, aside from the London Archaeologist one, that have been added onto the website. So for instance, a few of these highlighted ones here give you an idea. One project that we put together was London Pubs collection, and I think we've now, if I click on this one, there's now over 1,000 pubs that have been mapped by volunteers, across the whole of London. Some are just simple records with no images, but a few bits of information about the licensees, but some have quite in-depth records about the history of the pubs, interviews with licensees, images, old images, new images. There's a whole load of information on some of these. And if I go back to the Get Started page, the London Metropolitan Archives have created several really fascinating collections. Here's one about entertaining London, and again you can see how things have been gathered together and some really beautiful images from their collage website as well. So if I click on one of these, it should have a link to the original photograph, yeah, on the collage London Picture Archive. Let me just check some of these questions here. A question about the sustainability of the website, I guess. So how long do you feel this resource will be securely hosted for? Although the funding for engagement runs out in September, the website will be an active website that people can still contribute to for at least another 5 years. And the Layers London project sits under the Institute of Historical Research at the School of Advanced Study in University of London, and they'll be hosting it for at least, or archiving it for at least 10 years as well. So even if there comes a point where people can no longer contribute to Layers of London, it will still be accessible and viewable for at least another decade. I'm just going to check some more questions. So it's given people ideas to do some themed walks. Yes, anybody could, if you have any ideas to for individual content and records, just feel free to upload them. It's a really simple process to add a record. There's 4 mandatory bits of information. One is the title, then you need the year, a description, and at least 1 tag. But aside from that, feel free to upload and have fun with it, really. So I'm glad people are enjoying it. Who can volunteer and what skills do you need? Anyone can volunteer. You don't need to, if you want to add content, you can do so without getting permission from us. But if you do want to join in with a particular project that we've initiated, there's a Get Involved page on our homepage here, and you can see some of the campaigns that we're running at the moment. So one is History of My School, with schools across London to upload, surprise, surprise, the history of their school. But another one is London Arrivals. So if anyone who's watching this tonight is living in London but wasn't born here originally, we're looking for reasons why people move to London and their motivations. So where did you come from, when did you arrive, that kind of thing. And if you want to create your own record based on this, it would be amazing if you did so, and we'll be very pleased if you want to do so. But equally, if you just want to fill in the questionnaire with some prompts for questions here, we're more than happy to write one on your behalf based on your information as well. So that's one of the crowdsourcing campaigns that we're running. But otherwise, there's still opportunities to map some of those London pubs. Simply click on this link here and there's more information. And over the next few months, we'll also be running a few different campaigns looking for volunteers as well. So yeah, please do get in contact if there's anything in particular you're interested in or would like to share. Let me have a look at some more questions. So I think I've answered the question about the future of the website and how secure it is. We are looking for further funding and more projects. So fingers crossed, we will be able to extend our engagement work as well. But like I said previously, the website will be active for at least another 5 years and archived for way beyond that as well. Okay, I'll just do one final check of the questions, but I think that might bring this to an end now. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I hope you've all found it a useful resource, especially in terms of the archaeology layers that feature on here. Do feel free to get exploring once more. The easiest way to do that is go to the map page, have a look at the directory. You can search by London maps, the maps on a borough basis, or the data sets. And if anyone does have any questions, there are help centres to show you how to add content and explore those layers. The Get Involved pages keeps you up to date with our events, likewise our news and events pages, our volunteering opportunities. If anyone has any connection to education or schools, there are learning pages here, a bit about the project in about. And on our Contact Us pages, you can email the team, including our own individual staff emails, by following that link as well. So I think I'll just do one final check, but I think that brings this to a close, so I might stop sharing this screen and I'll just put up this slide. No, I won't. What have we done here? Where am I? I've lost you guys. Hang on a second. I'm just going to share this PowerPoint one final time, because if anyone does want, whoops, this is where it goes wrong. There you go. If anybody does want any further information, the website layersoflondon.org. The archaeology collection, London's Archaeological Investigations, is collections 362. But you can look at it via the links when you explore the map. And I think that's it really. So thank you all for attending. We've been overwhelmed by the response tonight, so thank you all for taking the time to watch, and I think I'll leave it there. Happy exploring.